Hi, this is Ms. Vanoy, and I'm here today to talk to you about how to write a really good, effective conclusion. So I'm going to talk about the strategies that work in case you ever get stuck, and things that you can kind of rely back on, some strategies and skills you can fall back to if you're stuck at the end and don't know how to wrap up your writing piece. All right. Um, basically, you can see from this introductory slide, I want you to really think of these metaphors of a mirror and like a mirror ball or a disco ball, because I think it really ties together what a conclusion should be. It should be a mirror to your introduction. It should be something that reflects back on everything that you've written, and that kind of urges you, like a disco ball would urge you to dance. It urges you to do something or feel something, or I don't know, react in a certain way. All right, conclusions are like mirrors in that way. I want you to think about how it's not just about restating, it's about synthesizing the information. You don't want to just do a simple restatement or a copy of the actual thesis statement, but you want to rephrase it in your own words in a way that really sums up all the main points that you have said in your writing piece. Like that mirror ball, as I was saying, it should be you can also think of it as a reflection. The conclusion is a reflection. It ties together something that you want the reader to feel or do, just like a mirror ball would urge you to dance. All right, so here's the mental model. You're going to start with a restatement of your thesis. If you're somebody who likes kind of a step-by-step guide, and you're struggling with your writing and you want to know, okay, exactly what do I need to do here? I have no idea what to write. Start with a restatement of your thesis. In other words, that very last sentence of your intro needs to be restated as your first sentence of your conclusion. You want to connect to the overall themes of your thesis, and you want to think about it's really cool when students can actually tie together, like maybe if they wrote an anecdote or an imagine this in the beginning, and then in their conclusion they kind of refer back to that anecdote or imagine this or thoughtful question that they wrote. That shows some really high level writing skills. But if you get stuck after that restatement of the thesis, because that's the very first thing you do, I want you to think about this question of, so what? Basically, when you're writing a conclusion, you want to think, what's the point of why I even wrote it? So what? What did I learn? The closing sentence ties back to that introduction and provides like a sense of closure. Most of the time, but maybe not all of the time, you probably want to write something that leaves it on a positive note, that makes your writer feel like glad that they actually read what you wrote, or your reader feel glad they read what you wrote. Now, I want you to notice this shape. If you're a visual person, this might help. Notice how it's a triangle. And there's a tip at the very top. The point is at the very top. So your thesis statement is the very first thing. That's the main point. And then you connect it in that middle. You broaden out, and then you get really broad at the end. That's your sense of closure. And you tie back completely to that introduction. Remember that introduction mental model that we talked about, how you have to have, when we talked about what the hit strategy was, the H, which is hook, the I, which is introduction or introduce, which is connection, and then that thesis. So the thesis is the last sentence of your introduction, so the point's down there at the bottom. So you want to start out broadly with the hook, and then you have that connection, which is similar to how the conclusion is, and then the thesis at the bottom. So it's like a direct reflection of how they mirror each other. So you start out broadly, connect, thesis, connect, broad. You have this broad statement at the end. All right, so you want to start with your argument or thesis and spend some time thinking about why it's important. So if you've really struggled with your conclusion, I want you to think about, okay, this is my thesis statement. I know I did a good hit strategy in the beginning. I found my thesis statement. I have restated it. And now I want to think, okay, so what? What's the importance of this? Why did I even write this paper? Why does somebody need to read this? Why does somebody need to know about this? Why should my reader care? Why is it important? What should my reader do next? Think of some so what question, and that will help you really focus in on what you need to do for the middle part and the end of your conclusion. Now, if you get stuck, I'll give you some transition words that you could even use. These text frames kind of help get the ball rolling. I know when you get to high school, they may say that you need to do something more sophisticated. But if you're stuck and you have nothing to write, think about the transition of, well, therefore, or as you can see, or this shows. Those transitions really help you start to reflect and connect back to the so what question. Again, that thesis is the last sentence, that point, and it's the first sentence of your conclusion. They will mirror each other. So you should be able to read your introduction and then your conclusion, and it should be like a direct mirror of each other. Now, I'm going to give you briefly some things you do not want to do. These are ineffective conclusions, and I have seen over the years, my middle school writers have gotten so much better at avoiding these kind of mistakes. You don't want to state the thesis for the very first time. By the time you've done the conclusion, I feel like you've already used all these awesome strategies that we've been teaching you, as far as the hit strategy for the introduction and for like 2C kind of format and 3.8 for the body paragraphs. So this should not be the first time you've ever even stated the whole reason why you're writing. You never want to give another reason or a subtopic. You don't want to put in new quotation statistics, anything that should be in the main body of the paper, like anything that you think, oh, I forgot to add that. That's another good point. That is not for the conclusion. That's for you to go back and revise your body paragraphs. You don't want to do that where it doesn't you don't want to do anything either that doesn't push the ideas forward. You're wanting them, like the mirror ball, to feel something, to do something, to get up and dance, some sort of reaction. And saying, that's my story, I'm done, thank you for reading, that doesn't do anything as far as summarize, connect, reflect. It doesn't push the feeling on out. So you've got to totally avoid things like that. You don't want to do something where you're just trying to fill up words and you're just like, in conclusion, and then you just restate what your thesis statement was. I see that sometimes too. Students will use those text frames that are transitions, but they'll use them too much, and they're just like saying the same thing over and over and over. It's okay if your conclusion is not super long. Think of a call to action, maybe like something you could actually tell the reader exactly what you want them to do. But you never want to stick in new information into that paragraph at the end. Now, here I'm going to give you an example of kind of how I was putting this Google slide together, this video, to talk to you. And really the main point, my topic, my thesis statement for this for this Google slide was writing a great conclusion involves steps of connecting to thesis, supporting sentences, answering so what, and a concluding sentence. So that is my thesis. And I asked myself, well, so what? What's the importance of it? Why did my reader read that? Why is it important? And then I start to brainstorm things like, well, it's important because if you learn these skills, it'll make it a lot easier for you to write. Eventually you want to go to college. So what? Or eventually you want to be able to do these things, write these writing pieces quicker and easier, and these strategies will help you be able to do that. So what? Well, maybe you need to know this for if you want to go to college one day and you're needing to write papers that way. So what? It's important as far as preparing yourself to have conversations and arguments and be clear and be able to conclude and not leave your person you're talking to hanging, or the person that's reading your writing hanging. It's important to not procrastinate. So what? It's important not to maybe procrastinate and put things off, to use a strategy so that you're able to get started and get done. Okay, so then after I brainstormed all those different ideas, I came up with therefore. I used that transition word. By following a few easy steps, students will be well on their way to there the word is, producing excellent essays. I couldn't remember what I wrote. So I did the therefore. So if you're having trouble, I used that transition word. I restated my thesis, then I used my transition word. Therefore, the so what is, well, if you follow these easy steps, you'll be well on your way to having great essays. So I wanted you to see kind of how I used it in action myself to model that for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. The most important thing I want you to take away from this is that when you write a conclusion, it should mirror your introduction. High-level writers will reflect back and make connections to things that they wrote about in their introduction. Like if they started out with, I'd imagine a world where nobody has friends, and then you talk about the importance of friends, and you go back to that in your conclusion, like the world is so happy because we have friends. So you would have some sort of reflection there. That's what high-level writers do. And I want you to take away that question of so what? If you need to be able as a writer to ponder that, think about it, be able to brainstorm lots of reasons why that you wrote what you wrote. So what? Why was what you wrote worth the effort of you writing and your reader reading it. So take those. Those are the two most important things I want you to take away. And good luck and have a great day. Bye.